welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something really vital in our fast-paced world, the quiet ritual.
Mm.
It's all about intentionally hitting that pause button, stepping back from all the constant buzz to really enrich our lives and maybe find a deeper sense of calm.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've looked at a pretty fascinating range of material.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything from creating a sort of personal oasis at home, navigating the demands of workplace mental health,
Right.
to understanding digital overload and the very personal journey of self-care.
Okay.
We'll also touch on the power of community, glean some insights from, interestingly, business setbacks.
Oh, how so?
Well, as a kind of reminder that constant action isn't always the best answer.
Oh, guts.
Then there's digital self-help and even reflecting on some really quite profound life lessons from Randy Pausch's The Last Lecture.
Well, that's a broad sweep. And let's face it, modern life can feel like a relentless race, can it?
It really can.
We're always connected, always reachable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's precisely why this conversation feels so important right now.
Mm-hmm.
So our goal today, our mission, is to pull out some really practical, like down-to-earth ways you can weave these moments of stillness, these intentional pauses, into your everyday life.
Yeah, showing how it can genuinely boost your well-being, drawing from all those different angles.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this then. Why is this idea of pausing like so crucial for us right now?
Well, what's really striking is how consistently our sources highlight the challenges of our current environment.
Yeah.
The research on workplace mental health, it really pinpoints this whirlwind of modern life.
Whirlwinds, yeah, that feels right.
And this heightened expectation of constant connectivity.
Tell me about it.
And, with remote work becoming so common and all the tech we have, the boundaries between our work and personal lives have just become, well, increasingly blurred.
So blurred. It's become genuinely difficult to disconnect, hasn't it?
Exactly, which fosters this always-on culture, and that significantly hinders our mental recovery time.
Right. You can't recharge if the engine's always running.
Think of it like trying to sprint a marathon. You just eventually run out of steam. You can't sustain it.
Exactly. It's like the office has permanently set up shot in our living rooms, even our pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just work, is it? We're also just bombarded by the potential for digital distraction.
No, constantly.
Our research on digital detox talks about how that never-ending stream of notifications can really fragment our attention.
It really does. It chips away at it.
Yeah, it feels like our brains are constantly being pulled in a million directions, making it tough to focus deeply on anything.
And if you think about it in that broader context, it makes perfect sense why our homes are evolving, right?
How so?
Well, the research on creating a cozy home sanctuary highlights this trend of our living spaces becoming these multifunctional sanctuaries.
More than just a place to sleep.
Exactly. They need to be havens designed for relaxation, for rejuvenation. It's a really direct and frankly understandable response to all these external pressures we're facing constantly.
This idea of our homes becoming sanctuaries. Yeah, that's really resonating with me. Makes total sense given how much time we spend there now. So, okay, what are some tangible ways we can actually create that feeling of calm within our physical spaces? How do we actually do it?
Well, the concept of a cozy home sanctuary, it really centers on intentionally designing a space that promotes calm. And a really foundational element here is decluttering.
Ah, the big one, decluttering.
Yeah. Now, that might sound straightforward, but our source provides some really useful, actionable strategies.
Like what?
Like starting small, maybe just one drawer or one specific corner so it doesn't feel totally overwhelming.
Okay, manageable chunks. I like that.
Exactly. Then it's about categorizing, thoughtfully deciding what you truly need to keep because it's useful or brings you joy.
Right, the joy part.
What you can maybe donate or sell, and what you really just need to discard or recycle. You have to be pretty honest with yourself about what you actually use and value.
That makes perfect sense. Sometimes just the thought of tackling everything at once just feels paralyzing,
Totally.
So what about actually getting rid of the excess once we've, sorted it?
Right. That's where implementing some simple systems can be incredibly helpful. There's the one in, one out principle.
Oh, yeah.
Intuitive, right. Bring something new in, something similar has to go out. Then there are more structured methods like the 4-box method, keep, donate, store, trash.
4 boxes. Okay.
Or the 12-12-12 challenge, finding 12 items to toss, 12 to donate, and 12 to relocate somewhere else in the house.
Huh. Interesting challenge.
And of course, there's the more comprehensive KonMari method, which focuses specifically on keeping only what sparks joy.
Right.
But sometimes, a really effective trick is just to try and see your home with fresh eyes, like pretend you're a visitor seeing it for the first time. Oh, I like that. That could really highlight the clutter you've just gotten used to.
Exactly. You become blind to it after a while.
Right, a fresh perspective can make a huge difference. So, beyond just decluttering, what other elements contribute to that cozy sanctuary feel?
Well, our source on home sanctuaries introduces this lovely idea of cozy nooks.
Cozy nooks.
Yeah, think of them as these concentrated pockets of comfort, quiet, and personal space within your home. Maybe it's a comfy reading chair by a window or a small corner piled with soft blankets and cushions.
A little retreat within the home.
Precisely. Then we have the sensory aspects. Things like calming scents.
Ah, like candles or diffusers.
Exactly. Lavender, vanilla, sandalwood, chamomile, eucalyptus. These have long been associated with promoting relaxation.
I can almost smell the lavender now.
And colors play a role too. Cool colors, shades of blues, greens, purples. They're traditionally linked to feelings of serenity.
So the color you paint a room actually matters. It can significantly influence how the space makes you feel. Warm colors might be energizing, cool colors more calming.
Scents and colors, that totally makes sense. What about bringing the natural world indoors? I feel like I've been hearing more and more about that.
Oh yeah, that's the principle behind natural elements and something called biophilic design.
Biophilic.
Yeah, biophilia essentially refers to our innate human connection with nature. So biophilic design is about intentionally incorporating natural elements into our indoor spaces.
Okay, so like plants.
Plants are a big part of it, definitely, but it's also about maximizing natural light, having views of the outdoors, even if it's just a glimpse of the sky or a tree.
Right.
That connection can be incredibly beneficial for our mood and stress levels. And things like incorporating water features, even small tabletop fountains, or choosing furniture and decor with organic flowing shapes, that can also help reduce stress.
So it's about creating an environment that really soothes our senses and kind of reconnects us with nature, even indoors.
Exactly.
And I imagine that organization plays a pretty significant role in creating that sense of calm as well, like after the decluttering.
Oh, absolutely. The research on home sanctuaries really emphasizes that organization is like the bedrock of calm.
Bedrock of calm, I like that.
Yeah. When everything has its designated place, it minimizes visual clutter, right? Which in turn can reduce mental clutter.
Makes sense. Less stuff shouting for your attention.
Precisely. So using smart functional storage solutions, baskets, shelves, maybe utilizing vertical space with wall-mounted cabinets that can really maximize your space and contribute to an overall feeling of order and tranquility.
Okay, so we've talked about creating the physical space for quiet. Super important. But what about what's going on inside our heads? All the mental noise. What mental techniques can we use to intentionally pause and reflect amidst all that?
This is such a crucial aspect, yeah. And our research on workplace mental health directly points to the value of mindfulness and relaxation techniques as really essential tools for managing anxiety.
Okay, mindfulness. We hear that word a lot.
We do. And simple practices like deep breathing exercises can actively trigger our body's natural relaxation response. It helps slow your heart rate, calm your nervous system.
They're breathing differently.
It sounds simple, but it works physiologically. Then there's mindfulness meditation. Now, this might sound intimidating to some.
Yeah, it can feel a bit out there.
Right, but essentially it's just about training your attention. Focusing on the present moment, noticing your breath, your physical sensations, thoughts, feelings, but without judging them.
Not judging. That's the hard part.
It is, but even dedicating just a few minutes to this practice each day can have a surprisingly significant impact on reducing stress and improving your concentration.
Mindfulness. Yeah, it sounds so straightforward, yet in the middle of a busy day, it can feel almost impossible to remember, let alone actually do it.
You're absolutely right. It takes practice, like any new skill. And another incredibly powerful yet remarkably simple mental technique for pausing and reflection is journaling.
Journaling.
Yeah.
Pen and paper, or on the computer.
Either works. Our source on journaling describes it as a potent yet remarkably simple instrument for engaging in introspection and fostering personal growth.
Potent, yes, simple. Okay.
And it's so accessible, like you said, all you really need is a pen and paper or even just a digital document on your phone or computer.
I've often thought about starting a journaling practice, but honestly, I never really knew where to begin. What are some of the key benefits that the sources highlight?
Well, a big one is emotional regulation.
Okay.
Journaling can be incredibly helpful in allowing you to first identify, then understand, and then cope with your various emotions.
How does that work? Just writing them down.
Pretty much. There are even specific prompts that can guide this process. Things like asking yourself, what specific emotion am I feeling right now? Or what might this emotion be trying to tell me about my current needs?
Like digging a bit deeper.
Exactly. And it can also be a very effective tool for problem solving. By writing down, say, what exactly is the problem I'm facing? And then brainstorming, what are all the possible solutions I can think of? You can break down these seemingly huge, overwhelming challenges into more manageable steps.
So it's a way to really process both our feelings and the challenges we're facing. I
Yeah.
can definitely see how that intentional pause to physically write things down could be incredibly beneficial.
Exactly. It gets it out of your head and onto the page where you can look at it more objectively.
Right.
And this very act of pausing and turning our attention inward, it connects directly with self-awareness,
Ah, okay.
which is a core component of emotional intelligence, or EQ. As our research on emotional intelligence highlights, self-awareness is all about recognizing your own thoughts, your feelings, and how they might be influencing your behavior.
Being aware of your internal state.
Yes. And a really practical technique mentioned for developing this is actually the pause technique itself.
A pause technique.
Yeah, just consciously taking a brief moment throughout your day, maybe just 30 seconds, to simply check in with yourself. How am I feeling right now? What am I thinking? What's going on?
It's like creating a little mental circuit breaker in our day, isn't it? A deliberate moment to step out of autopilot mode and see what's really going on.
Exactly that. A mini reset.
Now, we can't really talk about modern life and pausing without addressing the elephant in the room, technology.
The digital world.
How do we find a healthy balance in this digitally driven world when we're actively trying to cultivate these quiet rituals? They seem almost opposed sometimes.
They can definitely feel that way. And the research on digital detox really emphasizes the potential downsides of excessive screen time.
Yeah. Like what specifically?
Well, it can negatively impact a range of our cognitive functions, things like our attention spans.
Definitely feel that one.
Right. Something called executive functioning, which involves things like planning, organizing, decision-making, and even our working memory, which is crucial for holding and manipulating information in our minds, like when you're trying to follow a conversation or instructions.
Wow. So it affects how we think.
It can. And there's also emerging research suggesting potential links between excessive screen use and both cognitive decline later in life and disrupted sleep patterns.
Sleep disruption, yeah, the blue light thing.
Exactly. That's certainly a sobering thought, isn't it?
It is. So what's the recommended approach then? Do we just need to, like, toss our phones in a drawer and completely disconnect? Is that realistic?
For most people, probably not entirely realistic or even necessary. It's generally more about cultivating a healthy relationship with technology rather than complete abstinence.
Okay, a healthy relationship. What does that look like?
It involves intentionally setting clear boundaries and time limits for our technology usage.
Like screen time limits on the phone.
That can be part of it.
Yeah.
Also, establishing tech-free zones within our homes, maybe the bedroom, the dining table.
Ah, tech-free dinners. I really like that idea.
Yeah. It almost forces us to actually connect with the people who are physically present with us.
You.
And designating tech-free times, particularly in the hour or two before bed, can be incredibly effective in creating space for quiet and relaxation and helping with sleep.
Right, winding down without the screen.
Yeah.
What other strategies does the research suggest?
Well, practicing mindful technology use is key.
Mindful tech use.
Yeah, being really intentional about when, how, and why we're engaging with our devices, rather than just mindlessly scrolling out of habit or boredom.
Asking yourself, do I really need to check this right now?
Exactly. And turning off those non-essential notifications that can make a surprisingly huge difference in reducing those constant little interruptions that fragment our attention all day long.
Oh, the notification ping. Yeah, that gets me every time.
It's designed to. And our research on digital self-help also raises a sort of cautionary note about this sense of isolation that can sometimes arise from spending too much time engaging in solitary online activities.
Right, you can be connected to thousands online, but feel alone in your room.
Precisely. Which naturally leads us to the importance of connecting with other people, right? In the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does a sense of community play a role in our overall well-being and maybe in supporting these quiet rituals we're trying to build?
Well, the research on the role of community in self-help really emphasizes that it fosters a fundamental sense of belonging and connectedness.
Belonging. That feels important.
It's huge. Having supportive networks, opportunities for shared experiences, this can provide us with valuable new perspectives on our own challenges.
Seeing things differently through others' eyes.
Exactly. And it can really enhance our coping skills when we're going through tough times, just knowing you're not alone.
Yeah.
There's even a documented positive association between strong social support and a greater sense of purpose in life, as well as increased personal growth initiative. Like, feeling supported helps you strive.
It really reinforces the idea that we're not meant to navigate all of this in complete isolation, does
Not
it?
at all.
Sharing our journeys, even the quieter, more introspective parts, can clearly make a significant difference. Now, I'm particularly interested in how Randy Pausch's The Last Lecture ties into this whole conversation about pausing and reflection. How does his experience illuminate its importance?
Well, what's so profoundly moving about Pausch's experience is his conscious decision, knowing he was dying, that his last lecture wouldn't be about dying, but rather about living.
Right. About how to live.
Exactly. It became this incredibly powerful act of intentionally creating a legacy of lessons and wisdom for his young children.
Wow.
And even in the face of his serious illness, he made those crucial moments to pause, to reflect deeply on what truly mattered to him in his life. He had to distill it down.
It sounds like the very act of preparing and delivering that lecture was itself a form of incredibly profound reflection, a massive pause.
Absolutely. It was maybe the ultimate pause and reflection.
Yeah.
And it beautifully illustrates that even when we're facing immense personal challenges, intentionally carving out those moments for reflection can bring a remarkable sense of clarity about our core priorities.
Clarity on what matters most.
Yes. And this also offers an interesting contrast to what we learned from some of the research on, say, business failures.
How so?
Well, so often, those failures stemmed from a lack of pausing for thorough market research, for critical validation of their ideas before they poured significant resources into action.
They just rushed ahead without stopping to think.
Pretty much, it highlights the importance of that reflective pause before the headlong rush into doing. Sometimes the pause is the crucial action.
That's a really powerful parallel. Sometimes it seems like the most productive thing we can do is actually to consciously stop and think deeply before we act.
Couldn't agree more.
So, okay, with all of these different ideas and techniques swirling around the physical space, the mental techniques, the tech balance, community, reflection, how do we actually translate this concept of a quiet ritual into our own real lives?
Yeah, the practical bit.
How do we personalize it so it truly fits us, our individual needs?
That's where the research on personalized self-care becomes so incredibly valuable. It really underscores this fundamental truth that self-care, including the practice of finding these moments of quiet, is a deeply personal journey.
Right. No one size fits all.
Exactly. What resonates deeply and works effectively for one person might be completely unappealing or impractical for another. It's all about taking the time to understand your own unique individual needs, your personal preferences, and, importantly, your specific life circumstances.
So it's definitely not about trying to fit ourselves into some kind of rigid template we saw online or something.
Not at all. Our research offers examples of how you might integrate small, manageable moments of quiet throughout your day.
Small and manageable sounds good.
Right. Things like taking short mindfulness breaks, maybe just a minute between tasks. Listening to calming instrumental music during your commute instead of the news, perhaps. Taking a brief walk outside during your lunch break.
Little pockets of quiet.
Exactly. And evenings could include establishing relaxing wind-down routines, like limiting exposure to screens in the hour before bed.
We talked about that, yeah.
Taking a warm bath, engaging in a few minutes of gentle meditation or deep breathing. The research even includes examples of different routine types based on the time of day and various personality styles.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, really encouraging you, the listener, to consider what truly resonates with your own rhythm and preferences. And crucially, throughout this entire process of exploration and trying things out, it's so important to practice self-compassion.
Be kind to yourself about it.
Yes, be kind and patient with yourself. It's not about perfection, it's about intention.
That's a really good reminder. Be gentle with ourselves as we try to incorporate these new habits and shifts in perspective. Okay, and finally, as we start to weave these quiet moments and rituals into our lives, how do we maintain that momentum? How do we make them actually stick?
The sustainability question. This ties directly into the research on sustainable self-improvement habits, which strongly emphasizes the importance of celebrating small wins.
Celebrating small wins, like giving yourself a gold star.
Well, maybe not literally, but
Yeah.
recognizing and genuinely celebrating even the small moments where you successfully incorporate a moment of quiet or reflection that can actually enhance your motivation.
How does that work?
It helps reinforce these positive habits over time. When we acknowledge our progress, even tiny progress, it releases dopamine in the brain.
Ah, the reward chemical.
Exactly, which is linked to feelings of pleasure and reward, making us more likely to repeat those behaviors. The key, the research suggests, is to find non-material rewards for incorporating these pauses.
Non-material
Yeah.
rewards. Okay.
Maybe it's just consciously savoring that feeling of calm you experienced after a 5-minute meditation. Or acknowledging to yourself, hey, I took that important moment for myself today despite being busy. That internal acknowledgement can be powerful.
Non-material rewards. That's a great point. It doesn't always have to involve buying something
Mm.
or a grand gesture. Sometimes just acknowledging that positive feeling of calm or focus is reward enough in itself.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging and truly appreciating those small, intentional steps we take towards creating a more balanced, more peaceful, and ultimately more enriched life.
So to bring it all together then, it really sounds like intentionally creating these quiet rituals, these deliberate moments of pause in both our physical spaces and our mental practices can be a truly transformative practice
Mm-hmm.
for enriching our lives and finding a deeper sense of calm for our souls.
That's really the core message, I think. It's not about making dramatic, sweeping changes overnight. That's often overwhelming. It's much more about discovering those small, personalized ways to intentionally step back from the constant demands and the endless distractions of modern life.
And for you, our listener, we really encourage you to just consider maybe one or two practical ideas from this whole deep dive that you might be able to experiment with in the coming week.
Yeah, just try something small.
Even tiny steps can make a really significant difference over time.
Absolutely. And this leads us maybe to a final thought to ponder.
Okay.
In a world that so often urges us to constantly do more, achieve more, be more, what might become possible if we intentionally chose to pause more?
Hmm. That's a question that's definitely worth exploring, isn't it?
I think so.
Well, we invite you to continue thinking about these ideas and perhaps even share your own experiences with incorporating quiet into your life. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Thanks, everyone.